He's doing it again, as a Kevin Durant trade is imminent right now, according to multiple insiders across the NBA, but Kevin Durant does not want to come to Toronto. It's been made clear in recent reports, but that is not stopping Masai Ujiri's quest in either landing Kevin Durant via trade this offseason or getting involved in these KD sweepstakes somehow as a facilitator in one of these blockbuster moves. So we're going to break down what all of these reports are saying, because frankly, there's been a ton of news that has dropped over the past 24 hours in terms of how the Raptors are willing to gamble and get into the situation of landing Kevin Durant or just be a facilitator out here in this deal. Masai Ujiri is on his mission, on his quest to land a big fish. He's putting out the bait. He's talking to pretty well every team across the NBA. Masai Ujiri is big fish hunting this offseason, and the reports that have dropped over the past 24, 48 hours have really escalated that entire scenario. So we're going to break down what all of these reports are saying, what we can expect for the next couple days in regards to a blockbuster trade happening, and frankly, why this is just completely getting out ahead of Masai Ujiri's quest. He's on that mission, and he is not letting any preferred destination stop him. So let's jump into it. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. There's so much Toronto Raptors news dropping this summer. And if you're part of the 47% that haven't hit the sub button just yet, I don't want you to miss a single thing. So hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. But let's jump into it, because essentially a report came out from Shams yesterday that the Miami Heat, the San Antonio Spurs, and the Houston Rockets are Kevin Durant's preferred trade destinations out of Phoenix, sources tell ESPN. Those across the NBA have been made aware in recent days that those are the three teams that he would commit to long term. Now, Minnesota has also been brought up in terms of the four most likely destinations to land KD, and that's what the odds have been saying as well in terms of the likely destinations. The Timberwolves, the Heat, and the Rockets. The Spurs, they were favorites all last week, but essentially they don't want to give up the assets to to acquire KD. That's a lot different timeline than a Victor Wembanyama. So right now it feels like the Spurs don't want to facilitate a trade package. The T-Wolves desperately want to get a deal done, but Kevin Durant's preferred destinations are the Miami Heat, the Houston Rockets, and the San Antonio Spurs. That's what came out from Shams, and people have been saying, hey, because we've seen some reports, some nuggets drop in regards to the Toronto Raptors, Masai Ujiri's quest on landing Kevin Durant, trying to get a big fish, trying to, pick this back up. The old quest for KD, getting that trade done, as we saw for years now at this point as well. Masai Ujiri's been interested in bringing in the star player. So what's the new updates regarding the Toronto Raptors and actually, facilitating and making their quest for Kevin Durant happen? Well, this is where things get very, very interesting. As Mark Stein doubled down on his reporting and said, there are teams out there that are saying, we know he's only under contract for one more year at about $55 million, and we are willing to gamble on him. Toronto is one of those teams. So Toronto's out there in the mix, trying to get in there in all of these conversations and everything that's going on. Not a preferred destination, but they are trying desperately to make one of these moves happen. And we're seeing multiple reports. Essentially, Brett Siegel responded to the Shams report saying that this is this is the most important part in the Kevin Durant trade chatter. The Timberwolves are one of the teams that have continued to discuss the possibility of pursuing Kevin Durant without a long-term commitment, sources said, and Toronto has also held ongoing internal discussions. So the T-Wolves and the Raptors, despite not being on Kevin Durant's preferred trade list, have been in the mix, have been in the hunt to make one of these moves happen. Now, over the past 12 hours, late last night, everything that's come out, there's been some stuff on the T-Wolves front. So essentially a local T-Wolves beat reporter came out and said that the Timberwolves trading for Kevin Durant appears unlikely as it stands right now. So that's what a beat reporter said from the T-Wolves there. And then we also got this from KOC saying that Minnesota before July 1st is a second apron team. So they can't aggregate salaries until July 1st. So if you're going to be talking to Minnesota, it's extremely difficult to put KD deal together, which is why Phoenix are rushing things here. I don't think it's going to be Minnesota. So basically, the Timberwolves are seemingly, despite being one of the favorites, despite being desperate to acquire Kevin Durant, it's unlikely for one of these moves to happen. So the Raptors are the other team that's heavily pursuing him. That's not on these trade destinations on the list. And, we see the other squads that are out here, in the hunts. The Heat desperately want him, but they are a very, very kind of tough roster. Apparently, the Suns really want Kel'el Ware from the Miami Heat, and, of course, that's a really tough asset to part away with, no matter how good Kevin Durant is, but for a 37-year-old. So there's that, and the Rockets have been pretty adamant all offseason that they want to keep their group together, but will be willing to negotiate and discuss things. So, they're not chomping at the bit to immediately make this trade, but they are still in the sweepstakes. So the Raptors aren't up there in the odds, but they are pursuing him from the back end. And this is one sort of take and one insight that I thought was very, very interesting that I think should be brought up. Essentially, Kevin Durant has been on the trade market effectively, and this comes from Sam Quinn of CBS Sports. Kevin Durant has been on the trade market effectively since February. The timing of his preferred destinations reporting feels conspicuous, as it suggests to me that a non-preferred team is getting close, and he's working against them. So that is a very, very interesting perspective because, of course, we know KD doesn't want to come to Toronto, and he's going to try to not have this deal go down. And you can make the argument that making a deal happen for a disgruntled KD, no matter how good he is, however many points he's averaging, 27, 6, 4, no matter how efficient he is, a great scorer, how much he would complement a guy like Scottie Barnes, 43% on the three-point line, 50% on corner threes. It would be a bad idea, especially if he's just going to try to not allow a trade to happen and putting out these reports from Shams and not having the Raptors listed in any of these things, despite, again, the reporting came out, as I broke down a couple of days ago, if you watched that video. Shams talked about the teams most likely, the trade market coming out for Kevin Durant. It was, the Spurs, the Heat, the T-Wolves, whatever list it was. The Raptors weren't on it, despite clear reporting from other insiders about how the Raptors are trying to get these discussions happening. And we know Masai Ujiri doesn't have that tight relationship with Shams. A lot of these reports don't get leaked. You had the Damian Lillard information wrong. So there's that whole backstory there on that front. But basically, Shams is working with KD to not make sure that these teams that are not on his preferred destinations don't have that leverage in order to make a deal happen. So basically, Masai Ujiri wants this deal to go down. He wants to get involved. He wants something to happen, but KD is trying to not let it go down. So that is a big barrier, no matter how much Masai, but it is a trade situation. KD cannot veto a trade. He doesn't have a no-trade clause. So it's a very much up in the air spot. The Raptors are willing to take that gamble, according to reports here now at this point. But what makes this more interesting is the Raptors aren't going to be held at just trading for KD to get involved in this. As Chris Davis, again, he's been right on a lot of stuff in the past. There's been some skepticism about how credible he is as a reporter, so take this as a grain of salt, but he came out and said that a Kevin Durant trade is nearing potentially within hours. Miami Heat talks have stalled, but Minnesota has emerged as an aggressive suitor, prepared to offer multiple key players, picks, and prospects. Toronto and Brooklyn are amongst the teams in aiding and facilitating the deal. So even if the Raptors don't land Kevin Durant, even if they aren't the team that ends up acquiring him, that ends up, having him lace up in the Toronto Raptors jerseys, they are trying to get involved. Masai Ujiri is on his mission. He's on his quest to get a big fish. I'll play this animation here again. He is on that, he is determined to improve this roster next season to be back in the mix out there in the Eastern Conference. He sees how wide open the Eastern Conference is, and he wants a deal to go down. And Kevin Durant, you look at the NBA, you look at how some of these guys have been aging as of late. He was really good last season. He was really phenomenal, especially for his age, and he's a scorer. His game isn't that much slashing, getting hit, and all that type of stuff. Him around Scottie Barnes, the offensive firepower of a front line of Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and Kevin Durant would be absolutely dominant. And then you have Jakob Poeltl at the center spot. Of course, you have to give up some assets in order to make this happen. It will be very, very nice. But regardless of all that, Masai Ujiri wants to improve this roster. He wants to get this team in a space where it's going to be more and more competitive going into next year. So I like that approach. Again, getting KD, it would be very, very tough to judge until we know how the trade package looks, what we're giving up, and everything like that. But I want to know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. Do you want to see the Raptors trade for Kevin Durant? Do you want to see us get involved as a facilitator in one of these blockbuster moves? Let me know in the comment section. Anyways, you guys are the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.